To understand the future, a lot of times it helps to look to the past. So today, we're going to kick off a three-part series looking at the past to figure out what AI is going to look like in the future, how it's going to change our jobs, impact our lives, and just try to get a grip on how things are evolving. So we're going to start with the typing pools. Back in the 1850s to 1870s, the typewriter was being invented and then put into production, which made a fairly significant impact on the way that businesses operated, the way that they copied things, the ability to produce en masse through a pool of less skilled labor. So up until that time, if you were a scribe, you had a skill. You had penmanship, you were able to produce legible documentation, and it was a skill in demand. And it was fairly limited at that point in time. With the advent of the typewriter, more people entered the pool. Less skilled labor were able to get in and do the work that had previously required very skilled labor in a very small pool of resources that were available. Not only did that impact who was doing the work, it also allowed companies to change the way that they organized their labor pools. So prior to that, you typically had someone in the business, in the actual building where things were being done, so that they could scribe whatever was being decided in that company. So after the advent of the typewriter, this was able to move into a centralized pool. Now they could create documents. They didn't need those to be local. Around this time, we had the telephone, the telegraph, some other things that were being invented. And so all of these coupled together allowed big pools of resources to be at a remote location and still get the work done. So using this as an example, we can see that the shift was from a predominantly male workforce. After the advent of the typewriter, many females were allowed to enter the workforce. It was socially acceptable at that time for them to take on the work. And to me, this is one of the clear indicators of what we're looking at with AI. So I appreciate you joining us with AI Uncloaked, and we're going to dig into this as a three-part series. The first few videos are going to be raw, uncut, unedited, because I think we need to get the information out, and I think we need to start collaborating together. There are definitely going to be impacts, but again, if we look at the past, we can kind of see what the future is going to look like. And while many professional people were impacted by the advent of the typewriter, most of them were able to move up into a higher role in the company, something that was more valuable than what they had been doing before. And I think that's going to be the case that we see with AI. There's going to be people who are definitely impacted. If you're an early adopter, you're most likely going to move into a higher functioning role. And then the work that you do will be transformed, but not necessarily in a negative way. So stick with us. Again, we're going to do a three-part series on this and walk through several of the historical scenarios to start laying the groundwork for what I think is going to come out of the AI revolution.